It's been 30 days filled with action in the country of Cameroon that was hosting this year's edition of the AFCON Tournament. Welcome to another edition of the AFCON Highlights. My name is Nation Oano, and I'm here to give you and to bring you up to speed with what is happening in Cameroon. Just an update into what happened yesterday. That is, the hosts Cameroon were playing against the Egyptian Pharaohs, that is Egypt, and that particular game ended in favor of Egypt. This basically means that Egypt is going to the final of the AFCON tournament that is going to be held this coming weekend in Cameroon. They're going to be playing against Senegal. And the topic of conversation that most people are saying is going to be pitting Mohamed Salah against his teammate, I beg your pardon, that is Sadio Mane. Just before we get to look at the nitty-gritties of the game that was played yesterday, there are some aspects of the tournament which we felt that were necessary to look at in today's edition of the AFCON Highlights. We are going to be looking at the leading goal scorers in the tournament, and apart from that, we are going to be looking at the top outstanding teams and the players in the tournament. Just to set the pace for this conversation, the following are just the teams that have been I beg your pardon, the following are just some of the teams that have been outstanding in that tournament, and important to mention that this particular ranking is just based on our own internal decision. Now, the following teams we think have been outstanding in this tournament, that is the Gambia, Sierra Leone, Comoros, Burkina Faso, and Mali. In terms of the outstanding players in this year's tournament, we have Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah, Musa Barrow, and Gabadinho Mhango, Issa Kabore, and finally Karl Toko Ekambi. And joining me here in studio for the 18th time to talk about matters AFCON and African football is our resident African football analyst, that is Eric Shilenge. Shilenge, welcome again to this particular edition of AFCON.
Yeah, thank you, Nation. It's always a pleasure to be here to talk about African football matters.
Yeah. I think you're very happy coming to this analysis because you're saying that people should listen to you more. Because
exactly.
Yeah.
I told them about how Cameroon was going to be in trouble. Yeah, and now they're out. It is really a bad state in Yaoundé. They thought they would be in the final, but Egypt carried the day. Yeah.
Now we are going to be seeing a Sadio Mane versus Mohamed Salah.
Yeah,
Shilenge, there's a list that you've given some of the outstanding players in the tournament. You have Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah, Musa Barrow, Gabadinho Mhango, Issa Kabore, Toko Ekambi, and Vincent Abubakar. Those are just some of the players that we've compiled and we feel are necessary. Is there any player that you feel, apart from the ones that we have in the list, that have stood out in this tournament for you?
Perhaps the Comoros defender, that is Chaka Aladour. He's a left back. He came into filling a position of the vacant goalkeeper. And he was very outstanding in the post. He gave Cameroon a run for their money. In fact, I told you Cameroon were very lucky to win that game.
Yeah.
If Comoros were full strength, I think Cameroon was going to be leaving the competition earlier, as in the round of 16. And it has really proved how Cameroon have been lucky, just passing through Minos,
weak teams,
and coming all the way until now they faced a strong opponent in terms of Egypt. But I think Chaka, very outstanding. He made Comoros to win the hearts. Yes, they lost the game against Cameroon, but they won the hearts. They made everybody, every football lover, very proud on that day, and you could really feel that the man responsible for that performance was Chaka Aladour.
Okay. You mentioned a lot about the Cameroon squad. I think this is the right time for us to talk about the players that have stood out in the Cameroonian squad. And the first player that you're going to be talking about is Karl Toko Ekambi. Just to put this whole conversation into context, Karl Toko Ekambi has scored 5 goals in 6 matches in the AFCON tournament. He managed to score 2 goals in 6 matches of the World Cup qualifiers and currently plays for Olympique Lyon and is a former player for Villarreal. A very decorated player in the Cameroon squad, having played in the Spanish La Liga, and he's been quite outstanding in this particular tournament. What more do you think the Cameroon squad, or what do you think the future holds for the likes of Toko Ekambi?
I think he's been very addition to the side, doing a very good service for Olympique Marseille. Earlier played for Villarreal, and you can really see how playing at top level in the Europe or European leagues can impact onto the local scene, because when you watch Toko Ekambi, he's a very calm player, very relaxed when he's in the box. He gets into very good positions just to have a chance to score, and when he has a chance, he does that. I think much credit to him is that he hasn't scored a penalty. All the 5 goals have been from an open play. So if they could tie with Vincent Abubakar, I think the penalties could have disadvantaged Abubakar to win the top scorers award. But I think for him, given that he scored all the goals from open play, from set pieces, from a direct attack, shows a very composed forward. And I think he's a very good addition to Cameroon, especially going into the to the World Cup qualifiers last stage plays. He will be very useful for Cameroon if they qualify to Qatar June. I think they have really to look up to him as the main engine in the Cameroon team.
Okay. One name that has been very synonymous in this year's tournament is Vincent Abubakar. And you mentioned, and this is why people are talking about Vincent Abubakar. Vincent Abubakar has managed to score 6 goals in 6 matches in this year's edition of the AFCON tournament, scored 2 goals in 6 matches of the World Cup qualifiers, scored 1 goal in 3 matches in the FIFA Confederations Cups, and currently plies his trade in Al Nassr. Shilenje, a highly decorated player in the Cameroon squad. Speaking about Vincent Abubakar, I think yesterday you saw what you were saying with regards to Mohamed Salah. I guess somebody was laughing all the way home yesterday.
Yeah, he had earlier criticized Mohamed Salah. Little did he know that Salah was going to drive the last nail into their coffin. And I think apart from the yesterday's game where he was completely shut out, him alongside fellow forward, Toko Ekambi. He's been equally outstanding as a leader, as a captain on the field of play. You can really feel him. You can really feel his presence. In fact, in the penalty shootout, he's the only one who managed to score, to be on the score sheet. And he's been very also ruthless when he's in the box, when he gets into the scoring places. He's been one of lethal strikers in this AFCON. And at the age of 29, 30, he looks like he still has some years in him, maybe to offer to Cameroon. He's also going to be a nice addition to the squad, going to the last phase of the World Cup qualifiers. And if he can manage to hold on and maybe stay to next year's AFCON edition at Ivory Coast, maybe can have a chance to help Cameroon to salvage their pride, given that they've gone out at home.
Okay. I think one dimension, and I think we're going to be talking about this when we will be taking dissecting AFCON. We'll be looking in-depthly at Cameroon versus Egypt in the post-match analysis. I think one of the things that maybe will be important to mention at this point is Toko Ekambi has been very lethal in the penalty box, and he scored a number of goals. But what do you think did not work for him against the game with Egypt yesterday?
Against Egypt, I think the Egyptian coach, that is Carlos Queiroz, he must have watched this analysis. He must have heard what we said yesterday, because the game plan was so simple to contain the two strikers of Cameroon, and it was over. They had nothing to offer against Egypt. Once Egypt were able to shut the spaces, and Cameroon was not able to string passes to the strikers into the box, they were fully nullified by the Egyptian midfield and defense. The work rate was so effective, and they had no chance at all against Egypt.
Okay, I think in case you're wondering what Shilenje is talking about, yesterday on the pre-match analysis of Cameroon versus Egypt, we are talking about how Egypt would have won that particular game. So go to our social media platforms and follow that conversation. Shilenje, one player that scored a 40-yard goal in the AFCON tournament against Morocco was Gabadinho Mohango, a very superb player who's shown brilliance in this year's AFCON tournament. Just to put this conversation into context, Gabadinho Mohango currently plays for Orlando Pirates in South Africa, has scored 3 goals in 3 matches, made 6 appearances in World Cup qualifiers for Malawi, and the third best goal scorer in the AFCON tournament. This last fact is primarily based on the fact that we've not seen this weekend's final, which is going to be played on Sunday. Shilenje, what does African football have to offer the likes of Mohango post AFCON, because they are not managed to go into the latter stages of this year's tournament? I
think we first need to credit CAF for expanding the tournament into 24 teams, because when we had 16 teams, it was so hard for teams like Malawi, teams like Comoros, teams like Gambia to qualify for this or for any edition. But now that CAF expanded the tournament, they opened spaces for more teams, for more talents, and we can now see the likes of Mohango in their shirts representing Malawi. And he's been very outstanding for his team. Out of the 4 goals that Malawi scored, 3 are accounted to his name, and I scored that was a screamer.
Yeah, that was an amazing goal.
I mean, against Morocco. And for me, I can nominate that goal as the goal of the season. It should.
It should be. I don't think
the goal of the tournament.
Apart from the last minute shot that Cameroon made in yesterday's game, if that had gone in, then that would be a possible contender.
Maybe,
you know,
maybe. But as of now, Mohango's goal stands out as the best in the tournament. They gave Morocco a scare. Morocco didn't expect Malawi to have an early goal against them, but the leadership and the spirit and the work rate that Mohango put in that game really brought him out as a good talent, and who knows, it might be an opening for him maybe to get out of Africa, but so far he's doing very good job for Orlando Pirates, and I see full potential in him to go to other places.
Okay. Shilenje, the other player that I wanted us to look at very quickly is Musa Barrow. Just to put this context again to put this conversation into context again, Musa Barrow, I beg your pardon, currently plays for Bologna. Scored 2 goals in 5 matches in the tournament and provided 2 assists for Gambia in the tournament. Shilenje will never get tired of talking about Gambia.
Gambia, oh my God. One of the lowly ranked teams coming to this tournament at 150 in the FIFA rankings. They've really shocked Africa, shocked the world of football with their performance, going all the way to quarterfinals, falling to Cameroon. Yes, they lost to Cameroon, but they left with their heads so high, given that this was their first tournament to participate in. And players like Musa Barrow, we had also Abdi Jallo, the 2 strikers from the Gambian side. They made a very big difference. Musa had a very good strike against Sierra Leone, their first goal of this tournament. That goal goes into history as their first ever goal in AFCON.
Inaugural.
Credit to Musa Barrow. And I think his Bologna have to be very careful with him. Other sisters might be coming soon for him. It's just that the transfer window is gone. But I can assure you, in the summer, I'm not sure whether Musa Barrow is going to stay at Bologna because of the heroics he really did at the AFCON. And it is going to open up spaces for other players, because when these teams see that a country is giving some kind of players good talents, they're likely to go and scout more players in Gambia. And I think this is a very good start for the Gambian team. I told you the Gambia is a team to watch the next qualifiers for the 2023 edition in Ivory Coast, and Musa Barrow is one of the players to watch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that wraps up probably what has been some of the outstanding players that we've spoken about. We're going to be coming back. We're going to be coming back and looking at some of the remaining 2 players who we think were quite outstanding in this tournament.